Hey everyone, Greg Johnson. Well, it's a crazy time in our world, isn't it? Ever since Saturday morning when Hamas invaded Israel, and I'm going to say it right now, might as well just say it, did things that Israel, God's people, the Jews, would never do. They play by different rules. They just play by different rules. The dark side, evil, plays by different rules than the righteous side. And you know what I'm talking about. You know it's true. Never, 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 never would Israel do what Hamas just did. And let me just say something about Iran. The people of Iran hate the regime that runs Iran. Because basically people, remember I said it last week, and it didn't go out last week because of technical difficulties, but from the Catholic perspective, people are, in their core, they're good. They're made in the image of God. Total depravity is not something that we believe. We believe there is good in man. And I've Ubered Iranians, and I'll tell you, they're wonderful people. It's regimes, it's systems of evil behind leaders that create the situations we're in. So we've been seeing unfolding on television the horrific situation that has taken place in Israel, being attacked unprovoked. And of course the other side would say, no, it's not unprovoked. It's been something that we've had a problem with ever since time began, if you want to put it that way. And now Israel is responding in the way that only any nation would do in order to protect itself. Now, I want to say a few things here about how I perceive what's going on. And of course, I'm not as smart as the smartest guy. I'm not even smart as half the room in so many regards. But I will say that I do have a sense on things when I see things happen. I just saw on television a couple who had a son who was taken at that rave party that was taking place, and they don't know whether he's alive or dead. And the mother said something that was absolutely powerful. She said, "We don't know whether our son is alive or dead." And then she said this, "But I get it. I get it." What she was saying without saying it is what Paul said in Philippians chapter 1, verse 21. For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. What she was saying about her son was, if he ends up being murdered in this situation, she's basically saying, I will hold my head high because he died as a martyr for our nation, so to speak. There's dignity when you die for what you believe in. There is only desperation when you die because of a drug overdose, so to speak. It does matter how you die. It really matters how you die. That's why Gold Star families hold their heads up high when they lose a family member in battle in the U.S. defense. Why do they hold their head up high? Because my child died defending our nation. And let me take a thought on this. Every nation needs to defend itself. Every nation must put itself first. I mean, if the cabin depressurizes in an airplane, put your own mask on first, and then help those around you. It sounds like a little bit selfish, but really, get your own mask on first so you can help your kids. Because if you're not in a good position, you can't help anybody else. So here's my thought. My thought is that the only way to survive and overcome in a situation like we're experiencing right now in the Middle East is is if you choose to have what I would call a warrior mentality instead of a civilian mentality. And that's why I believe it's easier to live life perceived as war. Because if you live life perceived as a war, if you die, you died for a cause bigger than yourself. And that's why people can hold their head up high, who are martyred for their faith, those that are related to those that were martyred for their faith. Hamas, the motto of Hamas is, we love death as much as the Jews love life. They've already lost the argument. We love death as much as the Jews love life. If tomorrow Israel laid down all of its weapons, tomorrow they would not exist. If tomorrow Hamas laid down its weapons and surrounding nations that believe in the extinction of Israel, if tomorrow those who believed in the extinction of Israel laid down all their weapons, nothing would happen. Absolutely nothing. In 1948, when British rule ended in the Palestine area, May 15th, the next day, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Transjordan, and Egypt came against Israel, a one-day-old nation, to annihilate it. God intervened. In 1947, the UN voted to divide Palestine into a Jewish and an Arab state. The Jews accepted it. The Arabs did not. No recognition, no peace, no negotiation. Bottom line, the devil wants to erase Jews. Then you have no choice but to defend yourself. And you know, these newscasters and that play that stupid game of, what do you feel about the civilians that are being slaughtered, or the civilians that are being... Why do they do that? Why do these newscasters do that? Why do they bring up stupid questions? Why do they do that? They do it to play on the emotions and the reactionary emotions of all of us. That's why they do it. They do it to get ratings. They do it to stir up the emotions of people. Dennis Prager said it this way: there has never been a state in the geographical area known as Palestine that was not Jewish in all of history. I'm going to say that again. There has never been a state in the geographical area known as Palestine that has not been Jewish. So the whole argument that Jews don't have a right to exist in that section of the earth is not true. It's a lie. Bottom line, the only hope for Israel is that they treat themselves like Paul the Apostle and say, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. That's why suicide bombers are so effective. They don't plan on coming home. The only way to be truly effective is you desire to come home, but planning on maybe never coming home. That's the only way that you can have impact on anybody. Even in a relational sense, you only have impact on people if you don't care what they do to you in response. That's just the only way to influence people is to not care what they think about your desire to influence them, and I would say positively. In other words, we love people more than we fear their rejection. One side wants death, the other side wants life. How does this translate into our lives as believers, I believe that we need to have, but for me to live as Christ and to die as gain, spirit about us. We need to be proud of laying down our lives for the gospel message. I tell young people when I speak at conferences, I say, if someone came through the back door with a gun in a crowded auditorium where I was speaking, and he pointed his gun at me, and he says, if you do not deny Christ, I will kill you, my first question would be, is it a real gun? Because if it's not, come on, somebody, it's time to rumble. If it is a real gun and you're serious and you want me to deny Christ in front of these students, I would simply say to that terrorist with a real gun, for you to murder me is your greatest weapon. To be murdered would be mine, my greatest weapon. For the seed, the blood of the martyr is the seed of the church. You know, I heard one of the commentators on television talk about how the Israeli government has bent over backwards for the Gaza Strip and bent over backwards for the West Bank, I should say, the West Bank, where they allow Arabs to come in and out of the West Bank into Israel. Thousands and thousands that have work visas that come in and out, in and out, in and out. The generosity of the Jewish people is absolutely phenomenal. And that's because their God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And their God is the God who put his promise on Isaac. That's where the promise is delivered. It's upon that and leads all the way to Christ. So that's my ponderings on what's going on right now in this conflict that is absolutely tragic. And it'll always be tragic for everyone involved on all sides. There's no doubt about that. But the truth is, if Israel laid down all of its weapons tomorrow, they would no longer exist the next day, ultimately. But if Hamas and Arab nations that want the annihilation of Israel laid down their weapons, there would be peace. That's just the truth. But for you as a believer, the thing that I want us to take from our conversation today is simply this. We must have a warrior and a warlike spirit, not a civilian mentality. We must be willing to lay down our lives for the cross, lay down our lives for the gospel message. That's what we laid our lives down for. I trust you've received from this, and we'll see you next week. God bless you.